Hey there, and welcome to the Unlocking Doors podcast. My name's Corey Mills, your friendly neighborhood realtor, and I'm excited for you to join us on this journey.
And I'm Michelle Castle, a mortgage loan officer, helping you find the money without breaking the bank.
That's right, we're not just here to share information, we're here to share real experiences, real stories, and give you guidance on the dream of homeownership. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unlocking Doors podcast. I'm your host, Corey Mills, and I'm here with my co-host, Michelle Castle. Today, we have a treat for you. We are going to talk about our craziest haunted house stories. So, Michelle.
I feel like we need some of that music, like Twilight or some kind of spooky
music. Yeah. So you have some legit haunted house stories.
I've
got like one or two, but you got some.
I got some real ones.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give addresses because I don't want to ruin it for people.
Yeah.
But we bought this one house in Denison. I will tell you that much.
It's Denison.
I might even slip the street name. We'll see.
Okay.
We're working on the house. And this was a house that was built in the late 1800s.
Okay.
So it was 12-foot ceilings. It did have the lath walls. Mm-hmm. So behind the plaster was the lath, but it wasn't the big shiplap. It was the skinny lath.
Yeah.
So a lot of the house had already, the sheetrock or the plaster was down, and we were just down to lath, which was kind of creepy in itself when you're going through this house because it's like in pretty terrible shape.
Yeah.
And it had these beautiful stained glass windows, and you could tell someone was in the middle of this project and they just stopped. Mm-hmm. And I happened to know the previous owners, but I didn't ask too many questions at that point. It was great. I think we paid like $20,000 for the house. Mm-hmm. This was
not any time recent.
No, this was like 20 years ago. No, it's 20 years. It was 22, 23 years ago. So we're in the middle of working the house. And every time we would get to this one room where there was some old cloth wallpaper, you'd smell this perfume smell, and it was really strong. And some weird stuff would happen in this room. So we just started, we called the lady Stella. That was just Stella's house because of all of the weird stuff that was going on while we were working on the house.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember all of the weird things that happened, but it was just creepy. And then we had our first tenant move in. Mm-hmm. And they're living in the house. And they lived there for about 3 weeks. And they were like, hey, is this house haunted? And we don't know what you're talking about. Well, between that period of time of us finishing the house and them moving in, I did contact the sellers, the people we bought it from. And they just start laughing because they got freaked out and quit working on it because it was so haunted. So I'm like, oh, great. We go ahead and finish up the house. So the first tenant moves in and they're like, we can't stay. This place is way too haunted for us. Wow. And they leave. So second tenant moves in and she had her mother living in one room and then she was staying in the room, Stella's room.
That's what y'all called like the
room with the perfume.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was Stella's room. About 3 weeks later, they're like, hey, listen, we're out. This place is haunted. We can't stay here. We need out of our lease. All right. Tenant number 2. Third tenant moves in. She loves the fact that the house is haunted.
So,
full
disclosure, I don't know that I believe that homes can be haunted. I don't know if I'm fully on board.
Wait till you hear these stories because I have some details.
Did y'all tell like this third tenant? You're like, hey, by the way, like we've had
because it was somebody I knew, and so I'm like, hey, listen, this house is haunted. I love haunted houses.
Great, we get along great. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna love this. Her husband, not so much so. So, at the time she's living at the house, upstairs in the attic was her dog would roll over on its back and do its little thing like a dog, like a dog does when someone's rubbing its belly.
Yeah.
And used to chase an invisible ball.
Oh my gosh.
And you would hear like feet running besides the dog upstairs in it was attic room that was turned into a room, or it was attic space turned into a room. While she's there, she had several people knock on the door and say, hey, is the house still haunted? So like everybody in the neighborhood knew it was a haunted house.
Yeah.
The thermostat, it was one of those thermostats. This is before you had, a Nest thermostat. It was the one with the dial. You would turn the heater up and you would hear a noise in the hall, and you go, and the dial would be turned, going back to cold. Like someone turned the dial to cold.
Stella liked it cold in there.
She prefers it cold.
Yeah.
Bath water. It was an old clawfoot tub, and it was not easy to turn on. The bath water would turn itself on. I mean, just like crazy stuff like that would happen to the house. Her husband would be sitting and would creep him out. He'd be sitting in his recliner right by the window, and the curtain would blow, no wind anywhere.
Yeah.
The curtain would blow up over his face and land on top of him.
That's insane.
It was just the crazy, crazy things like that would happen. One day, her husband had walked outside on the front porch. The door closed behind him, and it was a big, old, heavy door. It closes behind him, and it locked. The only way to lock that door was through skeleton key. That's the only way it locked.
Oh,
and the key was on the inside, and he was locked out. So he went around to the back door to go into the house. Couldn't get in. Door was locked. And at that point, he called his wife and he said, "We're out of here. We are not living in this house any longer." And they moved out too. And we sold the house.
Wow.
Because it was like, what else do you do?
Have you followed up with who owns it now? Like, have you ever you should just walk by and be like, "Hey, how are things here at this house?
Is this house still haunted?"
Yeah.
I mean, they lived in the house for a while.
Right.
And her son lived upstairs where the dog would play with the ball and would just hang out. And it didn't bother him either.
Right.
But the tenant and her best friend, this is crazy. They brought Ouija board in one day.
Gosh.
Yes, they did. They did Ouija board, and they found out her name is not Stella.
Of course not.
It was Corinne. The Ouija board told them what her husband's name was and said he was a tall, lanky man. And they found an old phone book and looked him up. He was a carpenter or electrician or something like that in town. I can't remember. And they told Ouija board, or Corinne told them through Ouija board, where she was buried.
No.
Yes. I'm serious. And they went to the graveside
and found her.
And not only where she was buried, but what was on her tombstone, which was a daylily. And they went to the graveyard. They found where she was buried. They found her gravestone, and it had a lily on it with her name.
Wow.
That was a really
I'm
crazy.
Like getting chills, like just.
It was crazy. So yes, we sold the house after that.
Gotcha. So I've only had a couple, like I said, a couple of, and these are really like, one of them is a secondhand story of a home being haunted that I sold. And then one of them was just a house that I showed to a buyer, and it was a vacant home. It had been foreclosed on, and this house was in Howe on some acreage. And it was just like an old ranch style house, just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And we're looking at it, and we're like, yeah, it needs some work, needs flooring, paint, some cosmetic stuff. Kitchen needs to be updated, bathrooms, whatever. And then we go around this corner, and there's this one room, like it's almost, I think it was like a garage that had been converted, and then they built another garage. And so like in this converted garage, and there's like this closet, there's like a half wall, and then you go around the corner and there's this closet, but there's no doors on it. And so it's almost like a jail cell.
Yeah.
And there are like drawings on this wall of like dolls. They look like dolls that have been drawn on this wall with X's over the eyes.
Like voodoo dolls?
No, I wouldn't say voodoo dolls, just weird stuff. And it's almost like somebody was forced to stay in this little closet.
Yeah.
And they drew this stuff on the walls. But it was so like, the eyes had like black X's over them, and like
someone angry.
It was super weird. And then my people were like, absolutely not. Like,
yeah, I'm out.
We're not. And they were like, we feel like somebody was murdered in there, and we're not going to buy this house because it's probably haunted. And I was like, I wouldn't either. It would have been a great investment though. Like, it was such a great deal.
You do it now.
Looking back, I should have bought that house.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe somebody would have died from a ghost that haunted it. But the other one was, this was a listing of mine, and I didn't find this out until, so I was helping them sell it and then buy a house down on Lake, I don't even know what lake it was, somewhere east of Dallas, one of the famous ones out there. I think it was like Lake Tawakoni or something, or Cedar Creek Lake. But anyways, so they have this house, ranch style home on like 2 acres, Luella, Tom Bean area. After we close on it, the husband, you know, his wife died. She didn't die in the home, but you know, his wife passed away and he remarried. And come to find out, the reason they were selling is because they thought that she was haunting the house, and the new wife that he remarried.
I was gonna say there's got to be a new wife in there.
Yeah, so the new wife that he remarried, the wife that passed away did not like her.
Yeah.
They said that you would physically like feel her like push you. She would turn lights on, she would turn fans on, she would turn like she would just do all kinds of crazy stuff around the house. She would talk to them and just crazy stuff. And so they, you know, they told me this, and I always follow up with my clients, you know, 6 months, a year later. I'm just like, hey, how are things going? And they're like, well, you know, turns out she wasn't haunting the house.
She was haunting us.
She was haunting the husband. And so like, they're like, she's here with us in this new house too. And so anyways, once again, I don't know, like maybe these, and I will say like there was one time I had to go out there and pick up a survey, and they were like 3 sheets to the wind, had been drinking since they got off work. And they were pretty drunk. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah. It's crazy stuff.
Until you're in that situation, I don't know that you can really judge. Like,
right. Yeah. I mean, you know? I could say, oh, that's not real. But as soon as it happens to me, I'm going to be like,
yeah, you might be selling too.
It's definitely real.
Yeah. We had another house that we purchased in Denison. The lady that we bought it from, we bought it from an estate. So she was born and always lived in this home. Her parents were buried in the home, and there was pictures of them in the home, you know, for the funeral. Because back then, of course, they had funerals in the parlor.
Did they bury her under the house?
I don't know about that. I don't think so. No, in the backyard. No, she was, no, I found their graves.
Okay.
They were in a cemetery in town. But at the time that we were living there, my youngest daughter was 2 years old, and she was in the room that parents stayed in when she was caring for them. And Alex would talk to people. I mean, she called it her mommy. Like her mommy was in that room, and so she would play with her mommy, and she would be catching things. I mean, like her mommy was in that room with her.
Yeah.
And it was just so crazy, but nothing weird happened. It was just that my 2-year-old really thought she was seeing things.
Yeah.
But upstairs, there was this one room that was so haunted that none of my kids would stay. It was supposed to be Randy's room, and we had it all decorated. I had a hard time even being in the room to decorate it. It was so evil, heavy feeling in that room. And when you would go upstairs or even downstairs, you'd hear a baby crying. And it didn't matter if it was a guest that came over or it was a family member. It was all of us would hear babies crying from that room. It was just the creepiest room. Well, you remember back in the war days, a lot of the old homes were sectioned off, and then they would rent rooms, right? For the border income. And so that was on the upstairs of this house was a kitchenette, and those rooms were all rented out up there because Miss Bledsoe only needed the lower floor. So I don't know who rented that room, but whoever it was creepy. Well, we sold the house. The people that we sold it to, we told them up front, you know, hey, this house is pretty creepy. Well, we'd see them in passing, and they'd tell us all of the crazy things that would happen because they had like 6 kids between the 2 of them, and they used the entire house. For us, it was just like extra rooms because we didn't have all the kids with us all the time. So they would tell us stories. They heard the baby too, or the babies crying. And it was that same room that was all creepy. Well, one day, the new owner, the husband, was upstairs in the creepy room. And he came running down the stairs, pale white, totally freaked out. I asked him, Are you okay? What's wrong? And he's like freaked out. It took him for a few minutes to actually talk. And when he finally told her, I saw the Grim Reaper. Like it was like real. It was real. And he's freaked out. I'm not kidding. You're you ready for the chills?
Yes. I've
He
already got them.
he died the next day. He hydroplaned on Texoma Parkway and died.
No way.
Yes way.
So maybe it wasn't the room or what. Maybe it was just his time to go.
It may have been. It doesn't matter, but it makes for a great story, and that's truth. That
crazy.
story is true.
That is
Yeah,
insane.
I did not realize I know his sister, and when I said something about haunted houses the other day on Facebook, she commented that was her brother. And
Wow.
she knows the story,
That's crazy.
isn't it?
You know, not if, but whenever I pass, I'm going to be a ghost that haunts
Who are you
all
going to
the
haunt?
all the homes that I've ever sold.
That's not very nice of you.
But I'll do like funny things here and there.
Oh,
and
you're
just
going to be a
like,
prankster
yeah,
ghost.
I'm just
I
gonna
got
go
you,
through and-
Casper.
yeah.
Okay, that's all
I'll
right
do
then.
things that minorly inconvenience the people.
It would
that
be
I
really
haunt.
nice of you to like make their coffee for them in the morning. Things
We'll
like
see.
that.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still trying to.
Trying to figure out how
I
you would
guess
do
it
that.
depends on how my real estate career ends and how I feel towards the real estate industry in general at that point.
We hope it's kind to you. So you're kind to people when you haunt them. Yeah.
I'll be a nice ghost. I'll be a nice ghost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those are some interesting
Isn't that
stories.
crazy stuff? I
Yeah.
know that people have got some stories and we'd love to hear them. Share your
Yeah,
stories.
if you have any stories like this in honor of Halloween being right around the corner, Michelle and I would love for
Absolutely.
you to leave us a comment about something that's happened to you, or I don't know, post a video, share it with us. Very interesting stuff. Michelle's had some real life firsthand experiences. I've just kind of had some clients that have dealt with it.
Real or not real? I
Real or
mean,
not real.
it's up to you.
Yeah.
You could believe or not believe.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's all we've got for this week. We just wanted to share some crazy stories, and we hope to see y'all on the next episode.
Hey, give us a thumbs up.
Oh, yeah.
Subscribe to our channel too, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And share it with a friend who
And share it with a
likes
friend.
haunted
Haunted
stories.
houses.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all soon.